I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Council of the Village of Chase held here at the village office and via Zoom, February 11th, 2025 at 4 p.m. Just like to remind everybody that we are live and this meeting is being recorded. And today our CAO is on Zoom. So I need a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Conick, Councillor Herman. Any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Do we know if we can hear our CAO? Do we know? Can you hear us, Joni?
Shut off.
Yes, I can hear you very well.
Okay, thanks. Number 3, adoption of the minutes. We have, it's going to be, well, I'm going to move that the minutes of the January 27th meeting be adopted as amended. We're amending 9.6. We're changing the word receive to approve. Does that make sense to everybody?
No, do you mean January 28th?
Thank you. The minutes of the January 28th meeting. Thank you.
Yeah.
You said
27th.
Yeah,
Okay.
January 28th. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So, you didn't get it. Seconded. Councillor Herman, all in favor? That's carried. Apologize, I got a text here at the same time. Public hearings. We have none. Public input from current agenda items. We have 2 people here. Would either of you like to say anything on the current agenda?
Pardon me.
Neither of you?
No, thanks.
You guys are good? Thanks for coming. Okay. Hearing none, we have no delegations. Reports from council, mayor and council reports. January 31st, I enjoyed the village unplug and play lunch. February 4th, the CAO and myself met with Interfor's Vice President of Communications and Government Relations via Zoom. And February 10th, I reviewed the agenda with staff. Councillor Conick.
Dinner council meeting, and then after that we did an in-camera meeting, and then I had an environmental meeting, and on February, whatever it was, there, citizens on patrol.
Thank you. Councillor Herman.
January 28th was a regular meeting, VOC, or Village of Chase meeting. January 29th, I attended the first meeting of the Communities in Bloom Committee for this year. After amazing support from the Village of Chase and the community and a very successful evaluation last year's program, Community in Bloom is planning on ramping it up, being judged in all 6 categories this year. The 2 that will be added are heritage conservation, and environmental action. And both the Climate Action Committee and the Chase Environmental Action Society are both going to help out with that. And the museum is interested in talking about a bit of heritage conservation as well as adding some of the older homes to our tour. So that's pretty exciting. January the 31st, I attended the potluck lunch at the village office for the Chase Literacy Unplug and Play. February the 3rd, attended the Chase Climate Action meeting in the village with Councillor Connett and the committee. February 6th, I attended the very well attended Climate Cafe regarding the solar energy at Creekside. It was very informative. February 11th, today, attended a meeting about a possible pilot program with TNRD regarding composting education and possible program in Wilson Park. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Stevens.
Yeah, I attended the last regular meeting and the in-camera meeting. Yeah, I followed up with another resident about another lengthy train stoppage. So that's like a couple now, or I think 3 now, over 20 minutes that have been blocking both the Pine and Ulmer crossings in the last 3 weeks. I was advised about the west entrance to Chase also. being overgrown and the potential for flashy fuel before the fire season kicks off. And with the recommendation from the public that it should be cleaned up, as it doesn't look very nice as well. I emailed back and forth with staff about some budget priorities and meeting dates. I touched base with admin about some other topics as well, regular emails and conversations out in the community, and then no community events over the last couple of weeks. Actually, a lot of budget preparation and just rereading some older budgets to familiarize myself, I guess, with the municipal process. So that's all. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Torban.
Pretty quick, January 28th, regular council meeting and in-camera meeting. Review agenda, monitor emails and respond. Consult with staff as required and to local inquiries.
Okay, thank you. And we've had a few staff reports. Is there anybody on council that had questions for staff?
Yes.
Okay, and I just had a question to staff. So the CAO is on Zoom, so how do we ask the question? Do we ask it through, who do we ask it through, or what would you like us to do?
Just ask the
CAO? Just ask?
Yep, go ahead, please.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, this is with Sean's, so he's gone, he's gonna answer. I'm just curious about, working on covenant for trail on to Second Falls. I'm just wondering what that means.
Mayor Lipsel through to Councillor Connett, at the last regular meeting of council on January 28th, a zoning amendment bylaw was shared with council, and one of the conditions of the applicant receiving zoning approval was to provide public access for a trail from Foothills Road up to Second Falls. So that section of the road is private property.
Yeah.
There's a fence there. It's currently locked. There's a way to get around that fence, but there's no legal public access. So this process will open up public trail access.
Did the VLA have, they must have, access to it then? They'd have a key.
Their VLA?
I meant the water, VLA water.
Oh, Chase Irrigation
Yes.
District?
Yeah.
They actually do not have legal access up there. So we are, through this process, including their name, so they will also benefit from this statutory right of way, as well as the Ministry of Transportation, and then any other agent that the village determines should have access for future needs. So it'll be our discretion as to who we allow. Let's say Chase Treetop Flyers comes to life again. They used to have access out there through a private agreement, but if we deem them in the future, if we want to give them access, then we can delegate that.
Oh, okay, I got it now. Thank you.
Anything else, Councillor Connor?
No, that was good. No.
Anybody else on council? I just had one to our public works manager. I'm just wondering if he can just give us an update on where we are with the water meter replacement program, please.
Sure. So we started the water meter replacement program at the end of May, beginning of June 2024. At that point in time, we had approximately 300 water meters that were non-functioning. Since that time, we've replaced approximately 200 of them. Of course, an additional approximately 100 have become non-functional during that time. So we're currently sitting with about 200 that aren't working. We've been working with our staff, and we're looking at kind of retooling the program a little bit and going back to having our staff pick up the remainders. The reason for that is we're kind of getting lower on the list and running into scheduling problems, getting people during our kind of standard working hours and that sort of thing. So we're gonna have to I'm gonna be working with administration on finding kind of the best plan that we can have going forward. But we're going to be looking at how we can best accommodate our residents and still get these meters changed out.
Okay, thank you. No other questions from council? Any motion to receive for information? Councilor Corbon, Councilor Stevens? All in favor? That's carried, thank you very much. Number 8, no unfinished business. Number 9, new business, wildfire mitigation proposals, and I'm just gonna open it up to the Fire Smart Coordinator if you're okay with that.
Good thing, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'll start with one item that's not listed here right now, and that's because Chase is already moving forward with the pilot program. And that's the one that Councilor Herman was visiting earlier today, compost. So we tried a method of organic waste disposal before, it didn't work out because we found that there was garbage and other things being dumped in it. So right now we are moving on to a pilot compost program in Wilson Park, and also a chipping day that is coming on May 20th. That's for larger organic matter such as trees. So these are, they're good temporary solutions. We could do them even for the next few years, see how the pilot program goes, and then maybe consider more long-term solutions in the future. So that one's not listed here because we're already in progress implementing it. Now my number one solution that is a recommendation that is listed here is matching the community resilience investment rebate. That's only $250 right now, and it's really not much of an incentive. I would like it to be $500 ideally for detached homes. Strata complexes could share a $1,000 to $1,500 rebate depending on the number of residences or dwellings per acre. And I think this is important because if you look at a map, there's actually a map later in the document here of Chase, a lot of it's private land, right? All the black in this first graph here, that's private land, which means there's not much of a way for local government to help out besides the rebate. And we want to encourage homeowners as much as we can to manage fuels on their property. So that is first a top recommendation of mine. Initially, I would expect its cost to be relatively low. As homeowner interest grows, it's going to become more of an expense to the village. If you have questions on that one, I can answer them now or I can move on.
Any questions?
Who pays for this rebate? The taxpayers here?
So it is a grant funded rebate from the CRI, Community Resiliency Investment Program. But it's only $250, right? And right now there's a maximum of $3,750, which I would like up to $6,000. So that's, if I do my math here quickly, I think 15 rebates. But $250 is not much when you think about the cost of removing vegetation on your property, bringing in an arborist. And that's one of the cheaper things to do. You know, it's nothing like replacing your roof.
So you have to pull everything out, what you recommend, and then you apply for the grant.
Yeah, you just show some photo evidence or something simple like that of your work, maybe a receipt. Yes.
So,
Councilor
Councilor Stevens?
Yeah, so would that include also, could you use the rebate to plant as well, like plant some like resilient landscaping? Like if you recommended it?
I don't think ideally it would go towards that. It would more so be removal of fuels than introducing new fuels, even if they are fire resistant.
Yeah.
CAO has her hand up.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I just wanted to mention that Michael and I are meeting next week. And we're going to be also meeting with the Chief Financial Officer to discuss bringing forward some, excuse me, some information to our operational budget meeting when we have that. And then the CFO's got a report for that, for the scheduling of that meeting at this meeting. But we'd like to bring forward some potential ideas for rebate increases if council will be willing to consider those at a budget meeting.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next order of business here is wildfire development permit area and applicable bylaws. So this is very commonly adopted by municipalities implementing FireSmart. WDPAs are pretty critical looking into the future, because it means that any project going forward, any kind of development, will be FireSmart certified from the get-go. So that's a lot cheaper than having to actually renovate post-construction or development. It's better to just get FireSmart out of the way right away. And that's essentially what a WDPA does. Now the issue is it's difficult to enforce a WDPA without supporting bylaws. So many municipalities will actually have bylaws in place such as property maintenance, emergency tree removal, good neighbor, rubbish, bylaws such as this, and they will incorporate FireSmart into those bylaws so that they can actually be enforced. Now from my understanding, the Village of Chase right now doesn't have a full-time bylaw officer. So it might be difficult to actually, for the officer to have enough time to work on these bylaws, which means I do propose at least increasing their hours. It doesn't have to be full-time necessarily, but perhaps an increase in the bylaw officer's hours, which I understand has tax implications.
Any questions from council this time? Okay, continue.
Urban fuel mitigation, so this is within the village perimeter. There's a couple locations in particular that are of concern. One quite clearly would be anywhere around the railway. It's a likely source of ignition for fires. I have been in touch with Canadian Pacific Kansas City Railway, and while they do routine work on fuels around the railway within the right of way, it's not overly extensive work, I would say, and it's quite likely that the Village of Chase would actually get our Public Works department involved in the fuel mitigation as well. There are complexities though, because if we are to work within that 15-meter right of way, both sides of the center line of the track, it needs to be in coordination with CPKC. So we need to be in close contact with them regarding sight lines and other safety concerns that they probably have. So that's one specific part of urban fuel mitigation that I would prioritize. And another is the forested slope to the east of Hillside Avenue. Some work was done in this area at the top of the slope adjacent to the museum. It looks a lot better than it did before. I don't know if anyone's gone to visit it, but it looks much better. But there is, of course, much more work to do on this slope. It is a priority because it approaches very closely to residential neighborhoods in addition to public infrastructure such as the museum. It is a slope and it is forested, which are both hazardous in the case of wildfire. And it has a lot of ground fuels, a lot of dead fuels as well, dry, dead fuels. So if embers were to land on that slope, it would be a cause for concern. And as far as urban fuel mitigation goes, those are my two primary concerns. That's where I would start. In other locations such as public parks, not much to complain about there. It's satisfactory, I would say, for fuel mitigation. Any questions on that one? Okay, so,
Councillor Connaught?
yes, sir.
So, this is all fine and dandy in Chase, I mean, you got a fire here down the railroad tracks. The fire department can run down there and put it out. What about up here? What are we doing up on the middle?
So Councillor Connaught, so that's later on in his report, if you wanna wait.
Okay, well,
That is-
there's my question, I'll wait for it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I have that at the end of my report.
Yeah.
So upgrading the SBU or Structure Protection Unit trailer for our fire department. This is more so out of necessity than my recommendation. A type 2 trailer these days is considered standard practice for fire departments, especially in communities that are at high risk of wildfire. So getting that trailer purchased eventually, soon enough, would be ideal. There are financial supports from what I know through the CRI for purchasing it. And it does come at a pretty high upfront cost, of course. Water delivery infrastructure, now this comes out
I'm
of,
just gonna ask a question.
yes.
So on the upgrade structure protection unit trailer, I'm just wondering if the fire chief, do you wanna comment on that at all, or?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our structural protection unit that the village took over for us, did what needed to be done, 2 years ago, for critical infrastructure chase. But it is not, recognized by the BC Wildfire Service or EMCR, so it, unfortunately, they do come, as Mike was saying, a very high cost. Unfortunately, start running the Mark III pumps and they're 6,000 a pop. And 6 of them, it adds up very, very fast, so. If that trailer is never deployed, outside of the village of Chase, we technically don't need to have those specific equipment listed in there, so there is room to play. But a bigger trailer with more equipment would always be a good thing.
Okay, perfect.
All right, next subject here is water delivery infrastructure. This would come at a very high cost, upgrading the village's water delivery infrastructure. That's why it's lower down the list. I have heard from many residents though that they're opting for sprinklers over fuel mitigation. So in the event that, let's say, the village's power were to go out in particular, even though there is a backup generator, I'm a little concerned about what the maximum output would be and reliability of the municipal system if everybody were to operate a sprinkler. So this is lower down the list again, because upgrading the infrastructure would be extremely expensive, so it's not as realistic of a target as the ones above it. But it is something to consider long term.
Councillor Khan?
I don't think it's, should be at the bottom. If you ain't got any water, you can't fight any fire, so it should be on top of the bloody list. And I can't see it being that expensive. I mean, you're gonna put a generator down at the Pine Street pump house to pump over to that water plant. You have a generator in there that can run SCADA, which SCADA is just gonna open valves, that's all it's gonna do. It does not have to go into the filter system. As long as it's going and getting some chlorine on it, it'll go through a UV and then down there. You might have to put something a little bit extra maybe to run them pumps down below now. That's not a big deal, it really isn't. I don't think it's a big deal.
Right, so you think that the village's capacity for water delivery as is, even if the power were to go out, would be able to supply, let's say, half the homes in this village?
No, not with that well.
Right,
But the Pine Street pump house pumps out of the river. There's 3 pumps there, eh? Pumps over to the treatment plant and then it goes through a filter system right now. If the power was out, it doesn't have to go through a filter system. With that big generator, you have to just think it's just running a computer. It's running a little air compressor that's opening a valve, that's all it's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not taking that much. And to pump down there, and I'm pretty sure that you need like a tech to go in there and look at all that stuff.
I would agree. I think there needs to be more work done on what the expected discharge and water pressure would be. Let's say half the residents in the village of Chase were using a sprinkler in the event of a wildfire.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
So right now, there's not a whole lot of certainty on how reliable the this village's water delivery system will be. And
With it coming out of the river, there's no stopping it. Unless the pumps blew up or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not just working on a reservoir. It's branch lines everywhere, right? It's always getting fed, as long as the pumps are running in that.
Okay. Take that.
Councillor Khan?
Yeah, more work to be done on the water delivery aspect, and I will be in touch with our treatment center on that. Public facilities, fire smarting these, it's going to be expensive, of course. Structural improvements usually are. Quite a complex thing that should be, again, a long-term plan. It's not something we can do immediately. But there's no harm in improving the fire resilience of our own structures, right? Whether it's the arena or this building right here. So something to consider long-term again is structural resilience. And yes, sir?
Councillor Torban?
Like, what would you have to change on this building?
This building here, this one's actually pretty good. I think there's a tree that maybe is a little too close to the building, but if I look at its crown, but this one specifically is pretty fire smart. There's work elsewhere though that could be done on public facilities.
Well, what about the arena?
The arena, I think its siding perhaps is in questionable condition. From what I see, it could be in better condition.
Well, what kind of siding is it?
It's not hardy board from what I see, so it's not the kind of siding you
It's
would
metal,
consider.
isn't it?
I thought it was metal.
Is it metal?
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have to do more assessments on the public facilities,
If
really.
it's metal, there shouldn't be anything wrong with it.
No, there wouldn't be in the case that it's metal.
No.
Yeah, but we have to do assessments on each of these individual buildings too.
Yeah, because the problem with, when you get into that kind of stuff, like even if you're doing the village stuff first and then you're doing residential stuff, and you're looking at changing buildings, well, not everybody in town is gonna wanna change their siding and all that. That's
very
not
true.
even reasonable, right?
It's true.
That's not a reasonable solution.
Well, it's expensive.
Well, it's expensive, but it's not a reasonable ask either.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna do it.
Replace their siding or like the public?
Yeah.
Public.
Or even if it's, like even the public stuff, if it's not, there's gonna be some flammabilities within buildings because just the way they're built.
Mhm.
But when you start going into changing the siding and all that stuff, it's
expensive. Yeah.
not a cheap proposal.
That's again a reason why it's further down the list. It's
Yeah, it
more of
should
a
be.
long-term.
It should be below the conclusion.
Well, for now, on this matter, I think the best thing to do is get all the public facilities assessed. Get them assessed, and then we can move forward from there.
Yeah.
Because there hasn't been a formal assessment on most of them yet. The final subject here is.
Sorry, Councillor Herman. has a question.
I just wanted to say, I think what we're talking about is you assessing properties and public property, or village-owned properties, and you're already doing some private properties, right? I think it's more about education, right? Some people are going, for us, like, to have it done, and then we know what we need to do, doesn't mean we're gonna do it right away, but in future, or I think it's just a bit of education, and I think we should lead, obviously, by checking our own village-owned properties first. Doesn't mean we're gonna have to do it right away, but just, I think that's the whole point of the Fire Smart thing, is to get people thinking about it. Oh, we're gonna need a new roof in 2 years, so this is what we're gonna do, or we're gonna need to siding or whatever, so. Just to get our ducks in a row, kind of, so.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes. Yeah, I would agree with that. It is all optional, you do it when you can. But the only public facility that's actually been assessed so far is the museum. So I would like to have them all assessed soon enough.
Councillor Conick.
You should really look into the reservoir, the building up there.
The reservoir for the gravity fed system?
Yes, there's a building there that holds all the, I know it's a wooden inside, I can't remember what the outside is, And it's, there's nothing but dry grass inside the fenced area.
Okay. Yeah, I'll look into that
You
one.
should, because if you lose, you can still pump water, but you're not gonna get any signal that the reservoir's dry.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. So the final subject here is the wildland-urban interface. Anything outside the village perimeter. I have been in contact with many of the stakeholders that would be involved, from Tolko Industries to Nisconlith Indigenous Band. And it is complicated. Because there are so many stakeholders, because the terrain is rather difficult, And because Tolko concluded that it would not be profitable for them to do any kind of logging there, in fact, they have ruled out the possibility largely due to terrain. This is going to be difficult, and it's probably going to take 18 months to 24 months just to do the preliminary planning for it. Now, in the case that we actually did manage to get some fuel mitigation accomplished, particularly across the highway there on that slope, considering that's the only area that's within our it's actually not within our jurisdiction, to clarify, it's Crown land, but the others are indigenous. But just to do the preliminary planning would be 18 to 24 months. In the event that we did manage to get fuel mitigation accomplished, it would probably be done in partnership with Misconlit in particular. From what I've heard, they have a large fuel mitigation team available that's done hundreds of hectares in fuel mitigation. So that's the good news, is we do have people to work with in this regard. It's the preliminary planning and getting all the approvals dealt with that's going to take time and be rather arduous.
Have you,
Councillor Coniff?
and I've asked the mayor and Joni, if we could get a hold of our representative, Mr. Stamer, to come in and have a chat with council about this, he's a logger, and maybe he can push through a little bit of tape or something like that. But I don't know, have you made any arrangements, David, or?
Not yet.
No.
No.
I think we should,
Okay, so do you wanna hear from the CAO?
yes.
Go ahead, Joni.
Oh, thank you. Yes, yes, Councillor Connaughton and I did have a chat about that. So that is something that's another avenue that we would like to pursue. We want to make sure that council is involved in any kind of meeting that takes place with our MLA. But we will be making some initial contact with him, and then hopefully having a discussion with council and our Fire Smart coordinator at the same time.
Is that helpful, Councillor Coniff?
Yeah, so what about how much of Nisconnet, they don't own any property over here on this mountain side?
At the base of Scatcherd, I don't believe that close, no.
No,
It's
so what have they got
further.
to do with it?
They've helped communities as far as I think around Merritt with fuel mitigation. They have a very large team available.
Oh, yeah, they come in and thin it out.
Yeah.
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 I
So
thought
they,
they needed their permission or something.
oh no, but they would be a stakeholder regardless, because I think they do have some cultural lands in Chase Creek Falls there. And same with Adams Lake, they would both be involved regardless in the consultations.
Well, they go in and thin it, yeah.
Yeah.
You have to do something.
But from what I know, it's Tolko Industries that holds the largest applicable piece of land there in a lease.
So they
lease
really
agreement.
don't care if we went in and chopped it all down anyways.
They don't seem to care, no, but they would be a stakeholder, we would need their approval, and they're one of many stakeholders, right? The province would be involved because it's Crown
That's
land.
where I think if you had Mr. Stamer in to talk, and then he could talk to them and say, look, okay, let's, we'll just go there and slash the road out really good, and there's your fire break. All the way up there to the, private properties above that, I believe. I don't think there's any on that hillside.
Nope, the hillside is leased property, so it's Crown land, but it's leased by Tolko mostly.
Yeah, so if we slash the road out really good, but we have to get permission for sure, but I'm pretty sure if you got the rep, he could talk to them or something and get it going, because that's where the danger is there. It's not in my backyard with all my gasoline up against my house. It's there, eh?
It's a bit of both, but yes. It's both, really.
No, I'd move my gas. Just one propane tank.
The entire community appreciates your service.
Fire against the
Thank you,
neighbor's house.
But yeah, fuel mitigation on that slope would be very beneficial for reducing wildfire risk.
Well, that's our whole risk, is that thing, that's what our
It's
fear is.
not our whole risk, but it's a big share of it,
Yeah,
yes. So yeah, that is definitely a long-term objective to look forward to eventually accomplishing. But it's not something I see being completed in the near future.
Anything else with your report or your?
I think the conclusion just basically goes over our risk analysis from the last meeting and why these proposals here should be prioritized. As I said, one that isn't mentioned is figuring out a way to have a more local site for organic waste disposal.
Okay, and just before, I'm really impressed with this report, and the idea of getting plans for everything is so we can get money. If we have a proper plan set up, then we can go to the province or whoever and apply for funding, but that's the idea of doing the research, is my understanding.
Yes.
Councillor Stevens, did you have a?
I was just gonna make the motion.
Okay.
Just, I moved
Any other questions from council? Okay.
I move that the report from the fire smart coordinator regarding wildfire mitigation proposals for Chase be received as information.
Seconded by Councillor Torbon. Pardon?
Approved.
Discussion?
No, we said,
Received as an,
you said, I thought we just changed it at the beginning to. approved.
No. That
Oh, it was
was,
the other way around?
no, that's
received as.
what we adopted, what we changed were the minutes of the previous meeting.
Oh, jeez, I wrote it down on the thing. I was like, oh, maybe. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay, so all in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Good report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Yeah. And next, we have 9.2 budget timelines. Verbal report from the CFO.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and, so I handed out, it's not verbal anymore, I did hand out a paper to everybody, so you have a schedule of, what we've gone through as staff, so we have to adopt our financial plan bylaw by May 15th, so by working backwards, we have come up with these dates for the different budget workshops and stuff to bring to the council meetings. So, my question to everybody is, will these dates work? Is there something that we should amend or change? And
Okay, well, we can,
yeah.
can we go one by one? Are you? good with
Sure, yep.
What-
So we're proposing next Tuesday as the budget workshop with council for the strategic plan review and bringing forward the water, sewer and garbage budgets.
Is everybody available February 18th at 4 p.m.?
Yep.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
And then the next date we've proposed is March 4th, which is 2 weeks after that, to be, bring forward the capital budget in a workshop at 4 p.m. That's not a council date.
everybody's available for that one?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Connor?
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
That's capital budget?
I'm available for all of them. Make it easier.
So am I.
I actually am too.
Okay,
So there's no.
Yeah,
Councillor Herman?
I'm looking, I have to miss,
Yeah,
I have to miss a pizza party on the
that's-
4th, but I can do that. 18th
so
is
March
okay.
4th,
The
March 11th?
Yeah, that's our regular council meeting. We'll bring forward the grant and aids that we received, projection.
Council meeting, 22nd, is it council
That's the regular
meeting?
meeting.
Yeah, that's the regular
And
day.
yes, the regular meetings, yes, they're already.
March 18th.
Good.
March 18th. All right, after, everybody's good for March 18th? Budget workshop, and the rest are all regular council meetings, is that correct?
Yeah.
Everybody's good?
Yes.
Do you need anything else, CFO, or?
No, that's, I put a recommendation on here, but it's mostly just for.
Sure.
I'll move that the 25 budget meeting schedule as presented be adopted.
Second by Councillor Stevens, any discussion? All in favor? That's carried. I'm assuming all staff, the staff is gonna be there, or needs to be there.
Yeah, they should be working on those days.
Yeah, we discussed it as staff, so.
If they're not, then they have to report to us.
writing in the last thing. Okay. Are you done, CFO? You're done, we done
That's
with
it.
you? 10 notice of motion, 11 in camera. Someone wanna read it or just?
Okay, I'll read it.
Counselor Corbin?
The council recessed to an in-camera meeting pursuant to section 90 sub 1 sub E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements in the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interest of the municipality. And section 90 sub 1 sub G, litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality.
Seconded. Counselor Stevens. All in favor? That's carried, and we'll go in camera, but we'll take 5 minutes.